You know what emotional strength actually looks like from the outside. It looks like nothing. It looks like someone who is fine. Someone who is coping. Someone who does not seem to need very much. That picture is almost always incomplete. Psychology has found that the most emotionally resilient people are consistently the ones most likely to be underestimated. Their strength does not perform. It simply functions. This video reveals 10 hidden signs that you are far stronger than you appear. The first sign is that you feel things deeply and still show up. You do not feel less than other people. You often feel more. But you have developed the ability to carry that weight without letting it determine what you do next. Research from the University of Pennsylvania on emotional resilience found that individuals who score highest on psychological durability are not people who experience fewer negative emotions. They are people who experience them fully and maintain functioning simultaneously. Feeling deeply and functioning steadily are not opposites. They coexist in strong people. The second sign is that you have rebuilt yourself after something that should have broken you. You may not talk about it. You may have moved so far forward that you rarely look back. But there was a version of events that could have ended you and did not. Psychologist George Bonanno at Columbia University spent 2 decades studying how humans recover from devastating loss and trauma. He found that the ability to restore normal functioning after severe disruption, what he called resilience, is far more common than recognized, and almost always invisible from the outside. The third sign is that you absorb other people's pain without completely dissolving in it. Someone around you is falling apart, and you are steady. Not because you do not care, because something in you has learned to hold space without losing yourself inside someone else's experience. Neuroscience research on empathy and emotional regulation found that people with strong mirror neuron systems, those who feel others' emotions most acutely, develop stronger regulatory capacity over time as a direct response. The more deeply you feel others, the stronger your regulation tends to become. Sensitivity and strength build each other. The fourth sign is that you have forgiven something that did not deserve forgiveness. Not for the other person, for yourself. You understood, at some level, that carrying unresolved anger was costing you more than releasing it cost them. That decision required extraordinary emotional maturity. Research from the Stanford Forgiveness Project found that the act of genuine forgiveness, meaning releasing the demand that the past be different, produces measurable reductions in cortisol and measurable increases in psychological well-being. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is one of the most cognitively and emotionally demanding things a human being can choose. The fifth sign is that you have sat with grief without trying to immediately escape it. Most people run from grief. They fill the silence, stay busy, and bury the feeling under action. You have, at some point, allowed grief to move through you at its own pace without forcing it to stop. Psychologist Colin Murray Parks, who spent 50 years studying bereavement, found that individuals who allow grief its full expression rather than suppressing or rushing it show significantly better long-term psychological outcomes. Sitting with pain without fleeing it is not passivity. It is one of the bravest forms of emotional work a person can do. The sixth sign is that you have kept a promise to yourself even when breaking it would have been invisible to everyone else. Nobody was watching. Nobody would have known. But you knew. And that internal accountability, the kind that does not require an audience, is a deeply underestimated form of strength. Research on self-regulation from Roy Baumeister found that individuals who maintain behavioral consistency in private, meaning who act the same whether observed or not, show significantly stronger long-term willpower and identity stability. The promises you keep to yourself when no one is watching are building something most people cannot see and cannot take from you. Now consider this for a moment. Think of the last time you were genuinely falling apart on the inside, but completely composed on the outside. You held it together for someone else. You stayed functional. And nobody knew. Nobody knew what that actually cost you to do. The seventh sign is that you have ended something that was hurting you even though ending it was painful too. A relationship, a job, a version of yourself you had outgrown. You chose the harder short-term pain over the quieter long-term damage. That is not an easy calculation. Most people never make it. Psychologist Craig Anderson's research on decision-making under emotional pressure found that the capacity to tolerate immediate pain in service of long-term well-being is one of the most reliable predictors of psychological health across a lifetime. Every ending you chose that hurt in the short term was an act of sophisticated emotional reasoning. The eighth sign is that you have continued caring about people who disappointed you. Not naively, not blindly, but you refuse to allow someone else's failure to turn you into a person who stops caring. That takes more strength than most people understand, because closing off is always easier than staying open. Research on interpersonal trust and recovery from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that individuals who maintain the capacity for genuine connection after relational betrayal demonstrate the highest levels of emotional intelligence and long-term life satisfaction. Staying warm after being burned is not foolishness. It is one of the most sophisticated emotional choices a person can make. The ninth sign is that you have asked for help. This one surprises people because we associate strength with self-sufficiency. But knowing when your own resources are not enough and being willing to say so clearly, without shame, without performance, is a form of self-awareness most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Research on help-seeking behavior from the American Psychological Association found that the inability to ask for help is more strongly correlated with rigidity and fear than with genuine independence. Knowing your own limits is not weakness. It is a form of self-knowledge that requires more honesty than most people are willing to offer themselves. The 10th sign is the one that may be the hardest to recognize. You are still here. After everything that has accumulated, after every loss and disappointment, an exhausting stretch of invisible effort, you did not stop. You are still moving forward. That continuation, quiet and unglamorous as it is the truest definition of emotional strength. Psychologist Emmy Werner conducted a 40-year longitudinal study on resilience, following individuals from childhood into adulthood through poverty, loss, and significant adversity. Her central finding was that the most consistent marker of resilience was not the absence of difficulty. It was continued engagement with life despite it. Showing up again and again is the whole answer. Now, consider this for a moment. Every sign in this video is hidden precisely because strength like this never announces itself. It does not look dramatic. It does not post about its recovery or perform its healing. It simply continues, quietly, doing what needs to be done with what it currently has. The world has taught you to look for strength in people who seem unaffected, in people who appear to need nothing, in people who never crack and never slow down. That definition has left an enormous number of genuinely strong people believing they are not strong enough. But emotional strength was never about appearing untouched. It was always about what you do inside the experience of being very touched indeed. It lives in the pause before the reaction, in the decision to stay open, in the choice to continue when stopping would have been completely understandable. The people who carry the most are almost always the ones who look like they are carrying nothing. They have become so practiced at holding difficulty with grace that the difficulty itself becomes invisible. What you see is the composure. What you do not see is everything that composure cost to build. If you recognize yourself in even a few of these signs, there is something worth saying plainly. The things you have absorbed, survived, released, and rebuilt are not small. They are not ordinary. And the fact that you did most of it quietly does not make them smaller. It makes them larger. Think back to where we began. The assumption that emotional strength looks like something, that it is visible, that it announces its presence. The truth that psychology keeps returning to is that the strongest emotional lives are almost always the quietest ones, the ones nobody writes headlines about. Emotional strength is not the absence of breaking. It is the presence of something that keeps deciding to mend. And if you are here, still feeling, still caring, still trying to understand yourself and the people around you, then you are already living proof of everything this video set out to say.